Ruslan. Patreon exclusive.
They shouldn't have this much power against our freedoms and or any business knowing what our private health is. And we literally go through the ADA documents of like what private companies can do. And we literally basically make the case of like, hey, if you're against this, you're actually not for private companies. Then you actually want regulation in companies. If you want them basically not to be able to say, hey, we want to protect our people, so we're going to put a mandate, even though I disagree with the mandates. Right. But I'm saying, but based on the premise of, you know, how private companies are allowed to function, you're basically saying you want government intervention, right, which is the opposite argument that you believe ultimately with it all. So I'm like, reflexively, I'm like, I don't know. Your argument isn't holding up, but the person I feel like was arguing against this because of the cognitive dissonance. He couldn't see how flawed his point is. Even if it was so hard for this person to disagree with what was being done, but also saying, hey, you know, this is one of the drawbacks, I guess, where if you got the freedom in this case, like businesses can do great things, but then if I disagree with this business choosing to do a mandate, then that's one of the pros and cons with it, because I'm not, but this person wasn't willing to take the one con that came out of it in that case. And so I was just, that cognitive dissonance is really messing up our society, and the culture war it's like magnifying it a lot more, because we have complete tribes of people who have people that, you know, will spit the same nonsense out with one another. And it's because the numbers seem large, or even if if there's a number there of people that are able, that assume a certain worldview or a certain view of certain things, it's like you feel like it's right, but that doesn't mean anything.
I was talking to someone today, yesterday, and they pointed to a pastor in New Zealand getting his church service shut down. It was like, what would you do in that situation? I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I think, I don't know, probably meet. I don't know. And he's like, well, we already know they're going after the churches in New Zealand and Australia. And I said, hold on, wait, let's hold up a minute. Like, going after the churches, like, think about the language you just used, right? Is it that they're going after churches, or is it that all venues and all indoor establishments have to shut down? Right? So I think now that becomes your perception, because if you are looking for something in culture or society or government to be offended by, and you're like, they're coming after Christians, it's like, well, I think the policies are an overreach, but here, when the churches were shut down, so was the House of Blues. When the churches were shut down, so was the bars, right? When the churches were shut, right? So it's like the venues are shut down. So it's not that they're going after, it's that they are, they're using these goofy arbitrary policies to shut down all indoor gatherings over a certain number amount, and churches tend to fit within that criteria, right? And so I think the policy is wonky, but I think the issue I think you're kind of getting to is like, we have this Christian victim mentality where we're like persecution hungry, like you're anticipating persecution. Exactly. And it's not beneficial to you, because what you should be doing is actually living out someone that's valuable and someone that's helpful and someone that's beneficial to society and culture. And the more Christians do that, the less likely they will be able to come out and exclusively discriminate against Christian, if it even comes to that, right? And so anyway, there was a gang of churches in San Diego that sued and won against the state government here. There are checks and balances, in our system. So that's the part where I'm just kind of like, man, like, you're anticipating this all out end of days thing, when in reality you should be working on your skill set and making yourself more useful to where you're at in your season of life. And if we all did that, then goodness gracious, man, we could become the head and not the tail and actually influence policy and culture. Instead, we want to just put the victim card on and just complain about every little thing. And not to say that there isn't things that are going to be hostile towards our faith. There are, but they're not as overtly exclusive to Christians. They're more or less like, it's no different than the trans community being mad at Dave Chappelle. Like, he didn't just go after the trans and the LGBT. The dude dunked on everybody. Like, he literally made fun of everybody, but one community got offended. And so with the vaccine stuff and the mandate, it's like everybody's getting it, but one community tends to be a bit more louder and overt with their pushback, as if it's an attack on them personally. And I think taking things personally, I don't think is ever a helpful process in terms of dealing with people in society.
Well, incompetence definitely doesn't help in the cause of like making good arguments. So like if
Absolutely.
we say, hey, you got this going for it, this, and I present this information, and then people in positions of power just completely mess it all up by up in the ante and saying something that just is ridiculous, which is what we keep saying, that doesn't help. And so I understand why somebody can deal with this, but I think we all just have to really just take a step back and say, okay, where's my heart at first and foremost?
Yeah.
What am I predisposed to feel?
Yeah.
Am I predisposed to think, the government is out to bring forth the last days or to bring forth the mark of the beast and all that? If I feel that from the jump, if that's where I'm more predisposed to, at least in my lifetime, then yeah, I'm going to believe that everything is, the worst case, and I'm going to escalate everything. But if I'm praying, if I'm just, taking every day one at a time and, asking God for the right wisdom, it doesn't mean that like, oh, I'm gonna end up being the one that gets the shot or anything like that. You may not, but you're going to at least know the full context. You're going to know that, oh, this isn't, millions and millions, hundreds of millions now I've gotten it. And you will understand the science behind it at least and say, hey, I just don't want to, even though I understand what they could do. Like Jonathan Isaac, I think is his name. He said he understood the science, he understood everything behind it. He even believed it was effective and it would help many. He just didn't feel like in his context he needed to. Respect. And it was that simple, and it was very well articulated. And I'm like, okay, that's the type, if everybody was more like that, then we wouldn't have all of this. But what ends up happening is people escalate it, and you end up, the residual effect of what you end up saying or the information you end up presenting is, it's going to put other people, and it's going to cause other people to look at you, and it's going to ruin your ability to witness and reach people. And that's what I really feel the church is like, too many segments of the church are falling victim of, is they're ruining their witness on something that 6 months to a year from now they could look really bad taking certain stands. Like some of the stances are early on, some people that I saw were taking, it looks terrible 6 months later. Like you've had people that took really harsh stances against like masking and all that stuff, and then you had them get COVID and people died from it, and it just looked bad. It just looked a bad look to the church and the others when you have situations like that. So it's not to say that you can't have an opinion, but it's to say, take the time to really look at both sides of it, really pray. Like people talk about prayer, but I don't really think people are praying like that, but really pray about these things, really take the time to look at things that you disagree with and understand why you disagree with it, not just because it doesn't feel right, but like actually understand, or because you don't trust a person, actually have a logical reason why you disagree with the person, instead of just those things.
That's good. That's
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Patreon exclusive.
Hey, thank you so much for making it till the end of this video. Remember to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. I wanted to tell you about a free upcoming course I am putting together at mastermyhabits.com. When you sign up right now, you'll be the first to be notified about the course. And in the meantime, you'll immediately get access to a playlist going over my journey on how I went from addiction to freedom forming habits. So make sure to hit that link in the description. I'll see you on the next video.